where that Echo was, but it's not going to matter. Kirk on the flank finds it down onto one. Riot's already down, so it's a technical 1 versus 2. And Bri just swung to his death. Twizzler on the top floor will look to retrieve their teammate, but a Kirk can find the timing and clutch it out. An ace for Kirk.
But Spider still gets a kill, and then X's not ready for him in the corner, but oh my goodness, he gets the kill anyways!
He gets the kill, Teddy left alive. He doesn't yet again for Mirage!
He's low on health, especially when the Vulcan canisters are in play, but now Ambi low as well, but he takes the kill anyways! He's still left, but with 15 seconds and not too much intel as to where they are, it's not looking great for him, but he's just got the isolated frag onto aim key, and the last one's left in Freezer. This could be a very easy pick to find if he just looks in the right corners. With the shotgun as well, he'll be lethal in the close range! A 1-on-2 for the Gridlock!
Hello everybody and welcome back to XGS Season 7, Day 2. We got some familiar faces today on the desk. It's your boy T-Van, joined by Goose, and we got a banger set of matches today, starting off with SSG Academy versus Final Form. Goose, how are you feeling over there, man?
I'm feeling really great, coming off of a very hot start yesterday. I think we should have some standings. Yes, we do. It's SSG Academy and Fluffy Aimers to top their group after winning both of their games in regulation against Outlast and Mormon Battalion. Sadly, as of now, they will be at the bottom of the leaderboard, but Mormon Battalion later on today should have a chance to actually climb back up those rosters.
Yeah, I mean, and look at the teams that we haven't even seen yet. We have a Team Sesh. Makers is, I think, the big name that is going to make their XGS debut today, as well as Final Form against an SSGA that we had the luxury of being able to cast yesterday, that SSGA versus Mormon Battalion match, which I felt was a perfect start to an XGS season. And so far, Group A is looking a lot more competitive than I thought, with the 7-4 and 7-5s attached to them. I mean, no overtime just yet, but these maps have been going the distance.
Yeah, 100%. Group B also having a little bit of surprises after Carninco lost 7-0 to Wildcard Aces, or actually, lost to Thrive, and then Wildcard Aces got that 7-4 victory, which again is somewhat of an upset against Aerial Arise. So both of those Element 3 teams that were all the way in the playoffs, right now we're sitting at the bottom.
Yeah, I honestly, to be completely transparent, I didn't watch that game because I was doing something else, but when I was checking Twitter and I saw the 0-7, I thought that I was reading it wrong. I genuinely thought that we tweeted it wrong or something, and then watching the VOD, it's crazy over here. Group B is just upset after upset. Wildcard Aces, like you were saying, that 7-4, it seemed like they had a lot more control than we've really seen them have previously. I mean, we've had the ability to watch them through other different leagues, and Wildcard Aces, they're coming back for a vengeance, it seems.
Oh, 100%, especially with that new roster. But the very first game that we have today is that SSG Academy versus Final Form, which is mostly the same. SSG Academy coming off of a very hot start with their new rookie for them. He's been in the scene for a little while. Mike W had a lot of success being backed up of players like Inrio and Final Form, potentially in an underdog matchup could also potentially set them up.
Yeah, I mean, I love that we're able to watch SSGA again today, because I felt like yesterday it seemed like you were watching the growing pains live of the new roster. They didn't have that snappiness that they usually have because of that new slot in with Mike W, but it seemed like by the end of Cafe, they had their crap figured out. It felt like they were playing into their strengths a little bit. As we're looking at the roster here, their attacking side on Cafe was absolutely amazing. We got to see a full string of rounds that just felt fully in their control, and I think SSGA, if they can continue on that path that they found themselves in Cafe, they might be a terrifying roster in Group A.
Yeah, and Jabate's going absolutely huge for them yesterday, which I just find funny because a lot of people, when Jabate's went onto the roster when they went into Element 3. I remember, I won't call it names, but specifically I remember someone saying Jabates, but he's been one of, if not the star player for SSG Academy, especially with players like Vil, who've kind of had a little bit of a slow game, have fallen back a little bit, but going all the way over to Final Form, their opponents, it's going to be a little bit of a different story. You got Evil Clouds, Ion, Sens, Tricks, in Volsper. So a little bit more of that T4 going into now after, relatively good showings in the T3 scene. This is their debut in XGS Season 7, and not only is it their debut, but it's against probably one of the hottest teams we have in the entire tournament.
And honestly, that's got to put a fire under you if you're a player going into that. You have the narratives already happening. And I will say, one advantage that Final Form has that SSGA doesn't is the fact that this is their debut. They haven't been seen yet. There's not any VODs to show how these players play, especially on, the new maps that are being played right now with Oregon being out and Lair being pulled in. But they have VODs of SSGA. They saw the very apparent flaws that were showcased against Mormon Battalion. And so I think Final Form, as much as maybe this is that fresh roster, they have something to prove in this map, and they have the homework and research, if they did it, behind them to support them going into this maybe uphill battle.
Yeah, I agree 100%. We can actually see where we will be playing this best of one today. As I've said time and time before, best of ones are the absolute perfect place to get an upset. Sadly, still will not see Lair. A very good choice to ban it. I talked about how yesterday Mormon Battalion was the team to ban it out, but today we're going to be going to Skyscraper. A little bit of a questionable decision on my part.
Really? How so?
If we saw not only after SSG lost their very first attacking round, then won 4 in a row in that playstyle of simply just focusing and going for the picks early on, that is pretty much exactly the perfect playstyle you need for an attacking team on Skyscraper. So I understand the thought of bringing a team like SSG to, one of those out of bounds, throw off maps like Skyscraper, but I do think SSG is probably going to be one of those teams that are going to be the most prepared. So I like the idea behind it, but I think it may have been a little bit of a mistake letting it slip through the ban phase.
Yeah, and I also, something that I want to note that usually kind of goes through those cracks is also the fact that Final Form was the team that banned Lair, and it was in that second phase, their second ban going to Lair. So it keeps showing that SSGA is willing to play this brand new map. Yeah. And the question will be for XGS, when does it pop up, and which teams are willing to bring another team that's willing to play it to Lair? That debut happening, I feel like, people are getting a little scared. They're like, oh, maybe other rosters, other teams, maybe like SSGA, have a lot better experience on it due to them having those connections with T1 teams, maybe having higher quality scrim partners compared to people like Final Form. But I think this is going to be the trump card that's going to be absolutely massive as we start going deeper into the run, going into playoffs, finding those best of 3s and best of 5s, where maybe Lair will be picked a little bit more.
Yeah, it really is just a question of whichever, and specifically which team will just let SSG play on Lair, because not only publicly are they a team that, their playstyle does favor a defender-sided map like Lair, but, through these 2 first games for them, they've let teams know that we're not going to ban it. It is going to be your job to ban Lair, make sure we don't go here. And the exact same thing can be said for Skyscraper. Skyscraper is a map that, not exactly like Cafe that we saw them play on yesterday, but it is a little bit more of a map that doesn't exactly picturally fit into the meta that we have on every other map, like maybe a Clubhouse or previously in Oregon. And it's another one of those maps that SSG Academy has said that we're not going to ban it. It's going to be your job. It's going to be your decision if you want to bring us here.
And something that we saw SSGA bring to the table on the defending half of Cafe was the willingness to play really far forward on the defense and then fall back into their protocols, into their defense, fall back to site, give up space and waste a little bit of time, but having the fight happen in the last minute, last 30 seconds on site, maybe even like a 5v5 or a 4v4, And I think Skyscraper is one of those maps where you can kind of get away with that as well. You know, playing towards Statue, playing towards Drum, force Final Form on the attacking side to use a lot of utility, to use a lot of that time and energy to get that space. And then once they get it, SSG has a full bomb site to play off of. So I'm really excited to see what happens once they start to get onto that defensive half.
You know, like we've said time and time again, this is a map where you have to have a good idea, specifically on the attack. You can get away with not having 100% strat that you practice time and time again in scrims on defense because it is just such a fortified fortress. It is so hard to get not only into the map itself, but then also clear and get that map control on top of it. And SSG Academy still are making sure that they take off those operators that give teams a plethora of intel. And this is exactly why they've been able to play that really quick stab, go for the picks early on playstyle, is because they're taking away that utility that gives intel to their opponents and makes it just a little bit easier for them. So far going through these ban phase, especially removing an operator like Mira, which I've said time and time again, I don't necessarily like teams banning Mira because it's an operator that there's just so much attacking utility you can use to get rid of it. It's simply a lot of times one of those operators that are simply a big problem that teams really can't deal with. So they will choose to just simply ban it outright so they don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, it's that mini game, right? Okay, that's Mira. You have to get that Ash charge or that Kali charge to shut it down. Well, they might have the Womai to pair with it, or a Jaeger ADS system. So it's that mini game of getting all that utility out so that they can get the mirror, so then from there on, they can start to gain that space. Honestly, for me, if I was a competitive team, I would also be banning out things like mirror if I don't play it personally, because it is that minigame that's just kind of obnoxious.
Oh my God.
And it really slows you down. So, but speaking of obnoxious, SSGA might be those kinds of guys bringing the Capital Glass combo on top of a Lion Blitz Amaru rush. Goose, where do you think this is going?
I'm really curious if this is just one of those first round plays that SSG Academy is bringing out to see what they can get away with, or if this is going to be a constant reminder, a constant theme throughout their entire attacking half that they want to play aggressive, that they want to bring these really trick one-off play operators to apply pressure. We saw these operators, we saw Namaru, we saw Lion yesterday. This is nothing new, but bringing that extra fortification of the Blitz, of the Glass, is something a little bit added on that's extra that we didn't see yesterday. So it's going to be really a question of how much are they going to lean into this, or is it simply just going to be a one-off round play?
And so far, we're seeing Jabate start to play towards the first floor. The entry is going to be going through, though. Vocal going down, but Mike W is the first to be shot down. Final Form able to take two, but they have entered into the building. Sense shutting down Focal. That's the shield. So now it's up to Godville and Bay to try to pick up the pieces. A 4v2, make that a 4v1 with Volt taking down Godville. Now Bay, with some darts in hand, have to pick up the pieces that his teammates fell quite swiftly. It was a pretty fast take into makeup that was just an absolute failure. There's Trix finding that final kill, and SSG trying to maybe set the pace, set the tempo for how this map is going to be played, but Final Form shutting it down instantly.
If SSG were saying that round, let's see how much we can get away with. The answer is absolutely nothing. Not only were Final Form ready, but they had the rotates, and they reacted pretty much perfectly in time to completely shut down that rush. And if you see the overall operator lineup, it's just going to be one of those rounds where it's going to be a little bit off. Obviously, it's a different bomb site, but we're going to see that hard breach. We're going to see the operators like Sophia that are used, paired with Ash even, to get rid of that extended utility off of the site so they can clear map control, get more intel, and push back, maybe even perhaps get a pick early in the round before they actually start to try to hit those close to site or on site positions.
Yeah, we talked about it in the pre-show, right? The success that SSG found on Cafe was playing it slower, getting the intel game and playing off of that intel that they gathered. And SSGA immediately playing the exact opposite, playing something fast, not playing off of any sort of intel. They only had the intel from drone phase. They slowed it down a little bit. And now SSG might be once again going towards that same strat, something a little bit faster. Luckily, Mike W this time with the Grimbies rather than just playing Amaru being fast to potentially slow it down, play with the intel, and get those picks that Focal might be forcing onto Final Form.
I really love how Blitz has played into this meta because, a lot of times before you would usually just see a Blitz on those one-trick rush play that try to catch defending teams off guard. But now, a lot of teams, doesn't matter if it's T3, T2, or T1, Jabates, though, with a nice pick, that you can really morph them into an actual strategic plan to get that map control early on and apply pressure without having to use that utility, without having to use those player positions and waste those lives.
And that first kill is going to be massive. We saw their conversion rate last map on Cafe. SSGA, if they got that opening pick, they usually converted it into the round win. They just kept making it so suffocating as the defenders, especially on this exhibition site, can get a little bit, claustrophobic if SSGA starts to attack it in the right way, and it seems that they are. A run out, though, is going to be taking down Bay. It is quickly traded from God, and here comes Focal, pushing down some defenders, getting one kill, and Mike W is able to trade out Evil. It's up to Vol, trying to get back onto the site, but it's shut down immediately by Jabates, and SSGA flying towards a win con that is a lot more up their alley.
That's exactly what we saw yesterday. That's the SSG that we saw have so much success on Cafe. And the problem with the first round was, SSG Academy, because they had everything in their favor, because they attacked so quickly, they didn't allow that time for the defense to reconstruct. Rather, they gave the defense just enough time to converge and retake that space to eventually shut them down. But that round, as soon as they got the first pick, Final Form reacted, retraded their places, moved around the maps, and that's when SSG used their crossfires that they had set up to not only cut off those players, but open gaps, open an avenue into the way of the site to cut off those players rotating to the site while they were just simply in the site, paired again with the usefulness of that Blitz opening a way not only into the round, but into the site itself.
Something that SSGA does so well, especially against rosters that maybe are worse than them or less experienced, I guess is maybe the better way to say it, is they force them to make mistakes and punish those mistakes. We saw their Final Form was they felt antsy to make a play to try to get space back that SSGA was starting to suffocate them into, and it forced them to make a run out play that trades for a one for one, but when they already have that man advantage, that 1-for-1 is excellent for the attacking side. SSGA, when they play towards their win conditions and play towards what their team does well, they're absolutely stunning, and it doesn't seem like Final Form has the willingness and ability to shut down what SSGA does best.
I think if you're a team like Final Form, you have to just really put the pressure on SSG. That's not exactly me saying you need to be as aggressive as possible at every opportunity given, but you need to make sure that you don't let off that gas pedal. You need to make sure every time you get an opportunity to push that tempo, to really give SSG a problem that they need to solve, that you take it. You don't want to give up too much map control. You don't want to give too much respect. You need to make sure, especially on the defense, on Skyscraper out of all maps, that you really hold on to the control of the tempo, that you as the defense are pushing back, not letting SSG Academy get too much, because as soon as they get that map control, as soon as they get that first pick, they will continue to roll and snowball into bigger opportunities later in the round.
And I love that SSGA knows that Final Form doesn't have the willingness to do that, to play towards those extremities, and Focal with the Blitz, being able to just, with a trigger pull, with that, a drop of a feather, taking up the space that Final Form is giving them. I love how fast they're playing with it. Even in the first round when it was shut down extremely, disappointingly, to be honest, Final Form, it doesn't seem like they're really able to keep up. And Focal is starting to become a really big problem for Final Form with that Blitz. They, keep taking up that space, getting them into a position to start making those mistakes that I was talking about before. And the crossfires, it just doesn't really seem like Final Form knows the points that SSGA could be. They don't know what their defense and their default looks like, and it doesn't really seem like they know where to control and what SSGA could potentially be playing through. And that's kind of the signs of a fresher roster like Final Form is.
Yeah, and to be fair, to Final Form, the site they were playing is really weird because it is the basic take that you do go all the way over to Geisha and Disco to just clear that, get that map control. But because the way the site is set up, because with that huge wall that just has access to the single wall over by Office and the window, it is also not necessarily easy, but there's always that opportunity for teams, especially like SSG Academy, to simply just directly take in a site, directly, not exactly rush, but put pressure early on using the abilities of Blitz. Maybe that attacking utility like flashbangs or nades to push those defenders off of those positions to make it a little bit easier to get control of Office or Dragon. So it's one of those sites as a defender, you have to really read the tempo, you have to read the attack that your opponents are setting up, and if you don't, you'll have rounds like we just saw.
Yeah, and unfortunately, speaking of weird things, it seems that the tech pause that we have is going to give us a little bit more of a weird issue than we previously thought. So we are going to be going into a quick break as we figure that out. But don't go anywhere. We will be right back, guys. Alright guys, so sorry about that. We, have to deal with the wonderful tech of Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege, the video game. But guys, do not worry, we are back. Final Form, SSG Academy. To give some people a recap, I know that was a little bit longer of a break. Round 1, it was that really fast rush into Makeup Geisha and completely shut down, losing SSG that round. And then that second round, they started to play back into the way that they wanted to and shut down Final Form. So, going now into the third round, Goose, what are you expecting?
I don't know what to expect. It really goes up to what Final Form can do. We saw in those previous 2 rounds that SSG Academy saw a gap and tried to capitalize on it. First round, Final Form were able to react and stop it, reading the attack very well. But the second round, we're not able to read it whatsoever, leaving so many gaps that SSG Academy were able to take advantage of. So now going into these last couple of attacking rounds, it's simply going to be up to Final Form to either put up an aggressive roam, give a lot of problems for SSG Academy to deal with, or read these attacks just a little bit better than they did the round previous.
Well, it seems like SSGA is actually the one that's going to be making a little bit of adaptation. We were talking about during the tech break before we went off the air, was that Focal on the Blitz was buying a lot of space and becoming a big problem for Final Form. But now Focal's on the Ashe and Bay is on the Montaigne this time. So I think it's now going to be SSG potentially forcing the issue a little bit further and starting to work this second floor a lot slower and a lot more as a team, as a squad, to shut out Final Form's lack of positioning that they have going into this site. Oh my god, and Mike W opens up the round immediately.
Yeah, I really hope we can see a lot more of that, but Vulspur, he's ready and shut down Jabates, who was a huge player for SSG Academy the game before, and this is exactly what Final Form needed to do. SSG Academy, after losing that pick, unable to push out Vulspur out of his position over by Top Dragon, now have a problem. Do they want to continue to try to put pressure, try to put utility to clear out this position, or do they want to try to converge, find a different avenue? And as of now, it looks like they may have successfully pushed them out.
A beautiful shot there from Focal, opening up the round. That gives SSG Dragon, but it's shut down from Vol, able to trade it out to make it a 3-3. They now all alone in Dragon, waiting for Mike W and Godville to work their side of the map and catch back up. Their sense being taken down from the lurk of Godville. Beautiful shot there, and Bay is trying to catch up as well. Knocking one down with the pistol, and Mike W does secure it. But Vol finding 4 kills. It's quickly shut down though. Bay denying the ace from Vol, the only person trying to maintain an advantage in the round, and SSG just working the map beautifully, taking the space that Final Form isn't given, and they're making them look terrible in the skyscraper.
Up 2 rounds with the lead on attack. So far, my prophecy of SSG Academy continuing to have successful and aggressive attacks at that on Skyscraper has beholded right in front of your eyes in a very good try from Vulspur, the hero of that round, but eventually came in between the mountain that is known as Monty, and eventually was not able to deal with it. And that was the main problem that entire round for that Dragon position, was Final Form not really being able to deal with the Monty. If you look at the position, if you look at every time that SSG Academy got control, it was simply because Monty was in front and pushed back the defender that was in his way. And they're going to realize that, bring it again in this round. And again, Final Form, we're asking you that you need to start to converge. You need to start to adapt to what SSG is bringing. Because if you continue to not find an answer for this Monty, SSG Academy, they're going to continue to push it onto your defense.
And I love that the Monty was also kind of a red herring. He had one support that was able to trade one out. I believe it was Focal alongside with him. But it was also the other members of SSGA taking up space around the map, playing the extremities a little bit more, playing the repels, working the other side towards more towards statue rather than towards drum instead of statue. Excuse me. And it allowed them to kind of pinch at them while they were trying to rotate and solve that problem. But another problem is arising. Jabates, once again, the first member of SSGA to fall.
That is actually really huge for Final Form, even though it doesn't reflect in the round count, shutting down Jabates, the main entry player, who is continuing to put himself in these entry engagements. Now, 2 rounds in a row, has lost his life, not even dealing any damage this round. In Final Form, they need to capitalize off of this, because last time around, SSG, they were able to regain after losing that entry pick, but in Final Form, if they can start to find a recipe to actually bank off of continuing to get these entry picks and hold back SSG Academy. But as I say that, Godville answers back eventually onto Volsper.
Yeah, and it's pressure towards this geisha hold that stopped them in the first round. Godville able to start piecing it together from these restaurant stairs. He's going to be getting into a gunfight, but it's the other side of the battle that's going to be shutting it down. Mike W opening up the round with 2. Focal now dropping the bomb as they recover restaurant stairs. And Bay, the man of the hour, able to secure that last kill towards Drum. And once again, SSGA is doing a fantastic job of working the full map. Whereas Final Form seems to just be in one room.
I'm continuing to see the exact same theme. Even... Oh, and we're back to a tech pause.
Oh, God.
Let's... Well, before we ramble... Okay, all right, okay. As of now, we're not going to a break. But as I was saying, round after round, every time, whether it be an entry pick won or lost by SSG Academy, every time that SSG Academy converges and pushes the tempo and engages into a gunfight or taking map control around the map, the entire defense, or at least the crucial positions out of the site, are rotated around. Players moving from their position, going to another, and this opens up gaps. Rather, opens up opportunities for SSG Academy to find their way to get that map control, to cut off those players, to isolate those 1v1 picks, 1vx picks, maybe a 1v2 or 1v3. But it's a problem that I don't think Final Form realizes that they have at the moment.
Now SSGA, as they're looking to fight Geisha once again, they're going for an interesting strategy that they kind of attempted in the first round, but it seems to be a different variation of a similar take. They're going to be going with the Sans Glass take, with the Capital, Amaro, and Monty to put that same pressure on. The only time, I've seen this attack a lot on Border, going into Archives to get that default plant there. It seems that they're going to try it onto Skyscraper, but it might be Ions here. The Lurk with the impact in hand, hearing the repels hopping out the window, but SSGA is already gone. They've rotated quickly off that. Ions may have given up his position, and SSGA might be able to capitalize upon that.
It really goes to show that SSG Academy is always one step ahead. As soon as Final Form think they have information on a player or a position, that player's gone. That movement is now also completely gone, and Jabates finally, for 3 rounds now, has won the opening engagement.
A beautiful pick there, and Godville is going to support a little bit more with that glass, taking down 1. Jabates able to take down a 2nd, supporting the entry fraggers. Tricks, though, shutting down Godville, that swinging glass, but he's left with no sight. SSGA has full control. It's all of the Volsper and Tricks to try to get a foothold back into the site, but with the bomb down and them able to play post plant with one last smoke arrow from Mike W, this looks like quite the uphill battle here. Trying to swing something towards T, but he's not going to find anything. Instead, it's Mike W finding Tricks, and so now it's a 1v3. Maru has a couple grappling hooks to use as well, but Volsper is just going to be played with here, toyed around, wasted time. Mike W shutting it down with the Para, and SSGA is looking absolutely dominant on the Skyscraper.
You know, not to continue to give too much credit to SSG Academy, but if you looked at that plant, the soft wall to the left, right by the window, the main wall that you could shut down that plant or perhaps even defuse the bomb from the other side was reinforced. And that was not only to the mistake of Final Form, but a mistake that SSG Academy more than likely realized, droned out, and called out to the entire team in the drone phase. And as you can see, that position of the Amaru, her plan that entire round was to Amaru into that window, no matter what, with the support of her attacking teammates, to get that bomb down in a position. And because that wall was reinforced, she could not get shot by or through the wall without a player from the defense swinging over to Geisha, exposing his position to those top brown stairs and even drum doorway also. So it's one of those mistakes, those micro plays that changed the entire round that Final Form didn't even realize that they made.
Well, and I love that SSGA has not taken their foot off the gas pedal. Final Form has yet to really be able to breathe since the tech pause. SSGA keeps the pressure on them, makes them make these mistakes that we're seeing a lot, and Final Form also isn't playing these far out points to be able to recover from. But finally, Tricks on a lurk from Sushi, able to take down Jabates, that entry fragger that we've been talking about here and there, once again, shut down. Focal is going to kind of tempt the idea of trading it out, but it's just going to be met with a couple shots and forced off the angle. But SSGA is still fighting for space.
You know, that funnel into the bathroom simply just not only was a bad idea, but it didn't work out. SSG Academy realizing it, falling off of it very quickly. But now, for the third time out of 6 rounds, Jabates loses his life in his entry engagement. But if you look at the score count, it hasn't affected SSG Academy whatsoever. The shield continuing to be not only a problem, but the main problem for Final Form. And for a third round now, Final Form have the opening pick, being untraded by SSG Academy in a very comfortable position, but they still have to worry about this Scooter. They still have to worry about this Monty and Evil. He has to worry about his life.
Oh, it's actually a worry of a Nigercell from below taking down Mike W. That's the ace off the board. SSGA is being put in a spot that they haven't seen this whole map. Being slowed down. I feel like this is the longest since SSGA has gotten a kill in a round so far. Godville finally taking the words out of my mouth. Finding one, but a minute remaining, and they still have to flush out the 2 members that are playing towards second floor. It is a first floor hold here, and a beautiful shot from Godville, shutting down Tricks. Knowing that one's through bar, but it's the drop from balcony from Sense, able to shut it down. And it's the shield, that problem that you're talking about before, is left all alone. And this problem looks a lot more obsolete. Final Form, 3 members. Able to maybe just chip away at FaZe HP, and Evil Cloud's finally taking the last bullet to his chest. Final Form bouncing back, making this half 4-2 in the favor of SSGA.
Now, I don't want to continue to be harsh, but do not think that round 1 is a successful half for Final Form. Being on one of, if not the most defender-sided maps until we see later played, they only won 2 rounds, are now forced to go on to the attack. And not only that, but after getting 2 picks, you allowed SSG to even it out to a 3v3. Not only do they have a problem playing against aggression, they also have a problem forcing aggression. And now, on the attack, they have to probably force the aggression, and arguably one of the most important maps for it. And not only that, but SSG Academy continuing to stride that they are one of the best attacking teams in XGS Season 7, right after yesterday winning 4 rounds on the attack.
And it just doesn't seem like Final Form... This may sound weird, but it doesn't seem like Final Form is winning these rounds. It's SSG losing the rounds. They're making weird mistakes, giving up free picks. I mean, Jabates, as much as we keep harping on him a little bit, those opening picks do end up affecting SSGA quite a bit. That last round, if they had that extra man advantage to potentially play through, that second floor clear could have been a lot easier. Or that first floor clear could have been a lot easier, you know? But once you have that deficit off rip, a little bit more difficult. Luckily, on the defending side, if you're not playing any runouts or spawn peaks, Jabates is a little bit more difficult to get that opening pick on in the first 30 seconds, and we're seeing it here. He's tucked into sight and just chilling. Hey, trying to find a nitro on the rappel, nothing found just yet, but it's that phantom pressure that SSGA is famous for.
Not only that, but we're starting to see what is going to continue, in my theory, problem for Final Form is getting into the map. SSG Academy are making sure that they meet Final Form at every entry point. But Tricks, though, he finds one onto Mike W.
I think Mike W playing a little bit too aggressive with that phantom pressure. They have a lot of space to fall back on, but Bay is regressing, finding Sense on the reload, and that's going to be the buck. But now Evil Clouds is going to start giving SSG a bigger problem, and it's a blitz going down their throats. Ions picking off Jabates on site. Now, SSGA, the rest of the members trying to recuperate, but it's a flash from the blitz, forcing Focal off. The bomb going down, that's Trix holding it down, has one Lion Scan for this post plant, as well as Evil Clouds with a lot of flashes in hand. Oddville trying to get a little bit aggressive, exploring towards the site. Evil Clouds is going to be met, and Bay finding two. Vocal also finding his, being able to shut them down, but now it's this post plant that they have to play off of. No more Lion Scans. Striker has one more impact in EMP, but that's not going to really affect anything, especially when Azami is able to build a wall like we see here. This post plant could be a little bit more difficult than Final Form really wanted to. The swing is beautiful from Godville. A really well-placed Nitro from Focal, and SSGA making it look like butter.
That was one of the rounds where I'm just frustrated. It's one of those rounds where you watch an attacking team. I believe it was a 4v3, maybe a 5v3 at one point, where Final Form were in a post play. Not only that, but they had the cross on that balcony paired with the disco window. Playing that post play on the disco window is one of the most unlosable situations. Obviously, he found himself in a 1v3, but the fact that Final Form not only allowed that to happen, but in such a definitive way is just really frustrating. To the props of SSG Academy, that was a site retake that not only did they set up, but played pretty much perfectly. Only losing one of the players, eventually ending in a just 3 players left, no kills in that 3v2. But it's one of those rounds where Final Form thought they saw a gap, but that gap was a little bit of a honey trap that SSG perhaps could have set up to draw them in for that retake.
I almost feel like this is the exact opposite SSGA than we saw yesterday, right? We talked about it on that cafe against Warren Battalion. When they aren't being confident, when they aren't swinging, they aren't, just shooting back and fighting back, SSGA just falls apart. But now we're seeing an SSGA that was successful on Cafe that is making these swings, making these aggressive plays. It was Focal, making a huge effort in that retake as well as Godville, right? And it's Final Form that is the one that is kind of forced off of their aggression, their little bit of ego even. Their confidence is really low, and they're not able to get anything from it. They're opening up a little bit of some cheeky holes with the Maverick, but SSGA responding quite fast to it immediately. And now as we get to the 2nd minute mark, Final Form once again struggling to just enter the building.
This is a problem that I talked about last round. It's going to continue to be a problem, not only because of how Skyscraper plays, but SSG Academy. Not only are they a good team that can really just meet attacking teams at every entry point of the map, but if they're not in those positions, they can really read when an attacking team is trying to put themselves in positions, trying to get into the map. And on top of that, Focal on top of a kill from Bay!
Focal shooting down Evil Clouds as he was trying to aggress Bay through the window on that cross. You just can't make this up. This is the teamwork that you expect from a roster like SSGA. And they have the new luster of Mike W, who maybe has been a little bit absent this map, but has the comms that help them out, right? SSGA looking terrifying as they're starting to pick up these paces. And Final Form still haven't entered the building. Trix entering through delivery of first floor, might try to make an attempt through the stairs, but SSGA is way too well equipped to have that happen to them.
On top of that, Trix is all alone, completely isolated from his team. And eventually Jabates. It's really just too easy. And not only is SSG making it easy, but on the contrary, Final Form also. And now it's all up to Sens in what most likely will be a complete flawless round, and will likely find themselves on that 6-2 final match point.
This off his balcony has just become a battlefield for SSG in Final Form. I mean, look at it. Bay and Focal will not give them any space. A drop from Mike W and an interesting hip fire will secure them the non-flawless round. A pistol picking up a 2nd kill, because why not? Godville just is throwing some rounds away, but Jabates responds with a pistol of his own. The Goose. SSGA is not letting Final Form have an inch of this map.
Yeah, it goes back to the point that I was talking about, that every time Final Form try to enter into a point of the map, not only is SSG either there, but if they're not, they have the positions, they have the entire site set up to just run over there in a quick fashion to make sure that they bring bodies over, that they can deny that map space. And on top of it, you just have base swinging with a boss G. It really is just SSG at their best form and Final Form at some of their worst that I've seen them play. And, you know, on top of that, you have a player like Jabates who, compared to yesterday and games previously, has had a cold game. But in his place, you've had Godville, you've had Mike W. coming off of, you know, what in my opinion is a slow and very bad game for him, come out on the board, shut down these picks, get those refrags after losing the opening picks. It really is just SSG Academy. Not only are they the better team, but they have a team, if they have a player like Jabates fall down, another one will step up to replace him in that position.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like Jabates is needed to make an impact in these rounds. SSGA doing a beautiful job of putting on the pressure. Jabates is honestly doing his job of, you know, being a man, having the, you know, just the gun in hand, getting the information as he does the runouts. The information of Ion's taking him down, you know, once again, I mean, it sounds like a broken record of, oh, Jabates is dead early on in the round, but Final Form is unable to convert these first bloods, right? And now with an aggressive playstyle that SSGA is showing off with Godville on the alibi swinging out, shut down, Sense too good for that one, but Focal on the Ella also might try to make something frisky happen with Mike W, but the Lion scans are going to be giving it away a little bit. But Bay, the only one really near sight, is going to be holding down the Clash. Mike W trying to find a little bit of something, but Focal is actually the one that finds tricks. 1 HP left, going to be shut down, and the bomb going down for Final Form. SSGA might be playing with their food a little bit too much. Mike W able to pick off one from the verticality. Final Form hasn't cleared the second floor at all, but with the bomb down, I don't think the verticality is going to lend them to too much more. Mike W shut down, and it's up to Bay. The Clash, the Shield, all by her lonesome, finding a beautiful shot there on Volspur, but it's Shield v Shield, and Ions is the backup for Evil Cloud. So with 18 seconds remaining, not much to really happen. This verticality from Ions might just be the spoiler that is needed. Bay taking a lot of damage from that one. SSGA, man, hey, they lost one more round. Wow, he gets another kill, because why not? But, you know, I feel like this was just kind of a throwaway round that SSGA really gave them.
A throwaway is a nice way to say it. Just flat out right, SSG Academy trolling. Running out after you lose the opening pick in a jump out, it's just... It's laughable, not in the sense where it's like, oh, SSG Academy, I know you can do better. It's one of those rounds where it's like, okay, let's just see how much we can do. Let's see how much we can get away with. Even if Final Form get this all the way to 7-5, SSG Academy is a team where they can just flip the switch, lock in, and finish it out. The problem, though, is if Final Form in some universe can find those next two rounds and only need that next round, and SSG Academy are not able to shut them down, if that flip cannot be switched, Final Form could perhaps have a chance. But at the end of the day, it's simply up to SSG showing up. SSG not giving those ones, not over-aggressing, running out after losing a spawn peak entry pick. In Final Form, that was a good round. I was getting a little bit worried that they were going to give too much away, but with a blitz and a finka and retaking that vertical position, it was almost unlosable.
Yeah, and as much as it is fun to kind of clown your opponents, I do have... there is still that question mark for SSGA, as this is a one-round robin. There is a lot of room to have those that point advantage of having the rounds. If you go, you know, 5-0 in this... 5-0 in this group, 6-0 in this group, excuse me, and another team goes 6-0, and this one thrown away round against Final Form is actually the reason that you're seated in a worse position. Like, you just, it's little things like that where I mean, it's fun and all, but maybe you really shouldn't be doing that because it's going to bite you in the butt. And Mike W, speaking of being bit in the butt, Vol opening up the round, immediately taking him down once again.
Yeah, Volspur has just been very useful. And to be fair, though, after that second round, He's only gotten 3 kills. He has not been that impactful after getting that C4.
my
And then Bay roaming with Mute is allowed to just get another kill. It continues to beg the question of how are they letting this happen? A Mute roaming solo with no Mutes around him, keep in mind, should be an easy isolated pick that you can just choke out. But if you look at the positions of all these Final Form players, they are playing so disconnected. Even the Deimos and the Ace, even though they're near each other, they're in disconnected positions. If someone runs out of that double window, gets the kill onto Trix, Deimos is not in the best position to get that refrag.
And it's Monty by himself near Shrine. It's going to be spotted out by SSGA earlier on. The frag is going to be trying to get Focal out of a spot, but Ions is taking a lot of damage towards Shrine. Knocked down and eventually killed here by Godville. And where are the members of Final Form to trade it? To play off of it? Anything? I feel like, you know, if you're playing a shield, it's kind of obvious to play off of the space the shield is providing, and Final Form not really doing that. Maybe they're muted in Discord, or maybe just the hopes and spirits are gone, and SSGA might just be able to run away with Skyscraper in this round.
This box position over Engage is just the hardest to clear out because you essentially have to rely on him either pushing out of that position or that player on the single window killing him on the cross. And because that's not happened, and Jabates just runs out, and then Godville followed up, and Jabates finishes it. SSG in just absolutely dominant fashion, continuing their stride, going 2-0 in this group stage so far.
And it was that disconnect that you're talking about for Final Form that led SSGA to be able to pick them apart. And I mean, I was actually a little worried about SSGA from yesterday. I mean, their cafe showing by the end of it was starting to look good. But, you know, the beginning of it, if a team is able to shut them down like Mormon Battalion did, I was getting worried for this roster. Maybe they weren't able to do anything. They might go into that play-in to go into the bracket stage. But if SSGA plays like they just did against Final Form, this might be the #1 seed going into Group A.
It looks like he may have left us for a little
Sorry.
bit. Oh, there you
just
are. There we
DC'd
are.
from Discord. Just my Discord just died for a second. My apologies.
Yeah, and if you look at the scoreline and you just remove the fact they played SSG, you could say this was a lackluster first performing map. But not only are they playing SSG, again, I just think it is a huge mistake they took SSG to Skyscraper. This is a problem that I see a lot of the time with these T3, T4 teams is that not only is their map pool a little bit smaller, I don't know their map pool, but a lot of the times they will bring themselves to maps against, you know, higher teams, higher skill level teams on maps that they should not be playing them on. I don't know if it's overconfidence or lack of like, oh, it's Skyscraper, they probably don't have enough strats. It's just this is probably one of the maps you should not bring SSG unless you are a Makers.
And that's gonna, I'm gonna keep bringing it up because I think it's really important. It's their unwillingness to play Lair. That's forcing them to ban it every single time. And if you have a small map pool and you're forced to ban a map that maybe the other team is willing to play, especially with such a wild card map, that's really cutting you off of a lot of other maps that you want to be banning. If you're not a Skyscraper team, if you have to ban Lair instead of Skyscraper, then you see an absolute massacre like we saw here. And as much as like some people write off map bans as not really being that important of the game, with the introduction of Lair adding that little bit of spice to it, I think these map bans are going to get a little bit more important as a strategy for a lot of these teams going for the rest of XGS.
That's going to be all for now. We've got another game for you just in a second. We're going to take a quick little break. Don't go anywhere far. We'll be back soon.